Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Come on!
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center, Kastuba Das, who's not here today, but he's traveling. Matter of fact, he's live on Zoom, and he is in his taxi cab on the Van Wyck Expressway heading back to New York. But we have our great fill-in, Doyal Garunga, who was here yesterday, and I think everybody loved you, Doyal, and that's why we invited you back today, part 2 of Doyal Garunga. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome, Doyal.
Thank you. Thank you, Raghu. Thanks for having me here. Appreciate it.
It was a fun show yesterday, actually.
Lots of fun.
And, while we got you here, we're just going to talk a little bit about more of your course. If you have that link, you can put up on the board. But basically, a platform, Vani is a platform. Everybody wants a platform nowadays. We're even making our Wisdom of the Sages platform, and we're going to work intimately with Vani. But there are these platforms where people get absorbed in Netflix or on whatever, Spotify or Hulu Plus Max. It's like you can't just watch TV. You got to subscribe to a platform, then you're in their platform, then you're watching their shows, and they're all taking us in different directions. And I'm not so much into platforms like this, but when I do scroll around Netflix, what I find is a lot of things on murder. Murder's big. Murder's huge. I usually just search out comedies, and sometimes the comedies are grotesque. They're comedies of jokes I don't want in my consciousness. And so I love this idea of spiritual platforms where you can drive down the road and you can listen to things that are sort of going to enlighten you, sort of make you laugh, that are lighthearted, that are deep, that are philosophical. It's what we put in our consciousness on our downtime that make us who we are. And so you have a new course going over the Bhagavad Gita. You want to share a few moments about it?
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad we got back there. I was at one point we were talking about murder and grotesque comedies, and which I appreciate.
We're bringing it back home.
But no, you're totally right, and I appreciate that point that there's so much information coming at us from everywhere, and the reason for these platforms is to give us an opportunity to have something wholesome, educational, uplifting. And the Gita course is something I'm really excited about. It's great for new people who don't have a lot of experience from the Bhagavad Gita or want to get introduction. And it's also really great for seasoned readers or people who have studied the Bhagavad Gita for a while and want some extra insight of how the whole thing fits together. We talk about the structure, we talk about the flow, we pull out all the things that we kind of know are in the Gita, but we don't exactly know where in the Gita it is. So we go through all of those things. Yeah. So we go through all those Gita together. So it'll help you. If you're a teacher, it will help you learn how to share the Bhagavad Gita with others in a way that is authentic, authoritative, in the sense that you're able to reference the Gita directly, have a greater understanding and grasp of the flow and structure. So we're really excited about it. And you can catch the link. It's here in the chat board. Mara also puts it in the podcast notes. So just check your notes on the podcast, and there's a special link that Wisdom of the Sages has putting out. You get a special discount, and the course launches on April 1st. And if you sign up for the membership and course by then, you can sign up for special 4 weeks of live sessions with me that I'll be hosting for the first cohort of people taking the course. You can have weekly questions and answers and extra insights. And so there's a lot that comes along with it. A free workbook. You can get a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, all sorts of great stuff.
So it's not out right this moment. It's out April 1st.
Yeah, you can join Vani today anytime, but the course gets launched April 1st. So put in your calendar.
Okay.
And then
so once you join Vani, you're in the system, you're on the platform, and then
You're
that
on the
comes
platform.
on April 1st. I'm going to do, you know what? Because I thought it was out already for some reason. And I was going to listen to it on the ride to the airplane to fill up my mind with something high, and then try to download it and listen to it on the plane. But what I'll do is I'll listen to your other course, which is also on Vani. And then when it comes out April 1st, I'll listen to it. Here's the link. It's bit.ly, bit.ly/Vani Gita, Vani Gita, Gita. So that's great. And I think it is important. And what you mentioned, how it's not just like we want to be these theologians where we're just quoting verses from the Gita, but how to practically apply this stuff and talk to our students about it, if we're yoga teachers or if we're just telling people about the Gita. What is this book about? And how to put it in relevant terms. And it's what I like about Kostuba and yourself. And we practice this stuff on a regular basis, how to make this stuff accessible to the modern world, because it can be really thick studying the Gita and really heady. I know that first verse of the Bhagavad Gita, Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra, what's the English translation of the first one?
Dharma Kshetra Kurukshetra assembled in the battlefield.
Dhritarashtra said,
"O Sanjaya, what did at the place of pilgrimage, Kurukshetra, what did my sons and the sons of Pandu, what did they do?
When they assembled, what did they do?" I got to Dhritarashtra said, and then I was like, close the book. I'm not reading this again. It was just like, Sanjaya, Dhritarashtra, Kurukshetra, I've had enough. It's like, that is where my attention span is.
Yeah, and we break all of that down in the course, and it's the first chapter is usually a chapter that you kind of skip over because there's tons of names. There's not as many quote unquote philosophical lessons, but it actually is super, super rich. And I was working a lot with Keshav Swami. For those that know, Keshav Swami is an amazing teacher, and he was giving a lot of added insight and helping me kind of structure the course and figure out how to present it in a way that really makes sense. And so all of those things, the context of the Gita and the Mahabharata, the characters, the underlying meanings behind some of the things that may seem overwhelming or not make sense, we illuminate all of that. So
what to speak of someone just hands you a Gita. You've never read the Mahabharata. You have no idea of Vedic culture. You're not Indian. You didn't grow up reading any of this stuff. That whole first chapter, you can get so lost in names.
Yeah.
It can be, for a person who's not like a determined reader. I'm a little weak-minded. I'll say that. I'm man enough to tell you how weak-minded I am and cannot concentrate very well. But it just threw me off course. And then I got a taste for the Gita by someone really walking me through it, verse by verse, chapter by chapter. And then I fell in love with it. And then what to speak of? You read that Mahabharata, then you're really in love with the first chapter.
Yeah.
But I'm going to look forward to it because it never gets old. This stuff never gets old. You can read the Gita again and again and again. You can make it a practice. We were doing that during Kartik. It was fun. Every day we just chant a chapter of the Gita in Sanskrit and English, and it's always fresh. It's ever fresh. And that's the beauty about these Vedic teachings. When you feel a little dark, you feel a little damp, you feel a little moldy, open the Gita, chant a chapter, and especially if you've been taught it by a person who's been studying it, it's always fresh, and it just sort of it just makes any pale day into a sunny day. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Well, it's always fresh, but it's also relevant in every season, chapter, day of our life. So when you're a young couple, when you're a seasoned married couple, when you have kids, when you're an empty nester, when you're divorced, when you got an illness, when you're rich, when you're climbing the corporate ladder, when you're on top of the corporate ladder, when you're falling off the corporate ladder, like whatever
when you're
season,
fired from the corporate
when
ladder.
you're fired for the corporate ladder, when you weren't able to get rich, telling other people how to tell other people how to get rich.
I tried to get rich telling other people and you don't have to be rich to tell people how to get rich. Okay. So
We just had to stick
that's
that
what
in
we
there.
did after the show yesterday.
There-
We just laughed so hard.
There's certain TV shows that like somehow everything is inserted in every show. Like somehow that's going to get into every show for. But what I'm saying is that it's you know, you may have read the Gita 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or a year ago, and you think, oh, I know that, but actually it has a whole new level of meaning based on where you're at today, different than where you were a year ago or a week ago. So okay.
Okay, so we're going to just some announcements right now. Miss Mara, please enlighten us.
We have back to recovery group meetings at noon and 1:30 today Eastern time, and asana, Cult of Cain asana tomorrow for our Patreon members at 10:30 a.m.
All right. Another shout out for Italy. Go to wisdomofthesages.com. Come on a Wisdom of the Sages retreat. Why not? Pull the trigger. Jump out of the plane. Go for it. Jump out of the plane, land in Tuscany. Land in a chair with a plate of pasta. That's what you can pull. But you got to jump. And that means you got to go to wisdomofthesages.com/Tuscany. Do this every year. And it's sort of have an ashram experience. You always wanted to live in an ashram? Live in an ashram in Tuscany, damn it. Come on. We're living in an ashram in Tuscany where we will have the excitement of beautiful Tuscan, northern Italy, beauty, backdrop, culture, but we're having kirtan every day. Wisdom of Sages live, going on beautiful excursions, and you're with a really high vibe community of people. And that's wisdomofthesages.com/events. And it's happening.
Do you get really good Italian food, really good Italian prasad?
Really good Italian prasad.
Mm.
And this year we're going to go to, where are we going? Not Lecce. I'll think about it in a second. Oh, Voltaire. We're going to take a day trip to Voltaire. We're going to do some swimming in some creeks, cold springs, or unless it's cold, then we'll go to some hot springs because they're famous for those termes or hot springs. And then, of course, Cinque Terre. And it's right outside of Florence, which is the cultural capital of all of Europe. Anyway, onward. And there was an earthquake last time. Remember that? I don't know if you were there for the show.
That was an added bonus.
Podcast, you couldn't have planned this any better. There was an earthquake. Nothing happens, but except things shook, and we were like, "What just happened?" And we were a little scared because we were sitting under a 500-year-old, 2,000-pound chandelier. But we survived. We were protected. Oh, those were the days. Oh, we have a giveaway today. For those who are interested, we have a special giveaway by our good friends at silver_tulasi, TULASI_mala, Silver Tulsi Mala. And today they're giving away these beautiful japa malas. And we want to give them to somebody on Zoom today. Okay.
That's the Tulsi Mala guy that we met in Mayapur.
This is, Garanga Singha, Tulsi Mayapur and Mala.
Wow.
And these are beautiful. And they've got the Sri Radha carved in the Guru bead. And they're just handmade and hand carved, and they're quite wonderful. And we're giving them away. What is the trivia question? What is the name? You got to write this privately to me on the message board. And we're going to pick the third person. Okay. And you can't look. What is the name of chapter 9 of the Bhagavad Gita? Boom. That's the question. Okay. You can't look. Look at Aaron Erskine. He's like bugging out. I know this. Okay. Nima Sachi Sutta. You get it wrong. And you're not number 3 anyway. Okay. All right. We're going to continue on with the show. We're going to get back to you later. People, the Zoomers are just losing their mind at this point. Henry's frustrated. Why haven't I I've been in this for so long. Why haven't I ever mentioned? Why haven't I ever memorized these chapter titles? Let's dive into the Srimad Bhagavatam. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim yasam tato jayam madirayat. Before we start in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati utamashloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in class on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised at transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Agyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Midatam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 6, texts 11 through 13. We're in this deep.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's a big one, and you got to understand, like, this part of the Bhagavatam is really laying down the absolute truth. And it's cutting right through the mode of goodness. And sometimes goodness can be a compromise and can cheat you out of greatness. What do you think of that?
Yeah, well, the word sadhu means, one definition of the word sadhu means to cut away our material illusions. And sometimes sometimes we need that. Sometimes it's almost like the Bhagavatam is like one big material intervention for all of us. Like we're in some sort of illusion, some material addiction, and nobody wants to hear it. You walk into a room of an intervention. I've never been a part of an intervention on either side, but we know what one is. And you walk in and you think everyone's against you. You think everyone
No,
hates
wait a second. Maybe people don't know what an intervention is. It's popular.
Tell them. Say, okay, you
it's
say it.
Popular in like
Explain an
12
intervention.
step culture.
Yeah.
When you have
Explain an
when you have a
intervention.
person who's say an alcoholic, a drug addict, but they haven't admitted it to themselves. So all the people that love them get together, their family members, people fly in and they say, hey, you want to meet me for lunch or something? And they're like, sure, go. And they don't know what's going on. You think they're meeting one person for lunch, and they get to the place and everybody that loves them has flown in from all over the world, perhaps. And they're just saying, we love you. We actually care about you. You're ruining your life. You can't see it, but we all see it. And we've sacrificed our time and our resources to come here to tell you how much we care about you. That's an intervention.
Yeah. And usually an intervention is when things have gotten so bad, like a person's life is just, it's ruining their life and the lives of people around them, that it's almost a disservice for us to not do something like this because it's gotten so bad for this person.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that person, their first thought isn't, oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad you did this. It's like, everyone is against me. Everyone is trying to hurt me. Nobody understands me. And it kind of takes a minute, if it goes successfully, where they get on board. And so the Bhagavatam is they're pointing out unsavory truths or aspects about life. And not all of them may apply to us in one sense. We may not have some of us, we talked yesterday, may not have kids or attachment to kids in the same way, or whatever, feeling ownership over our kids in the same way. But the principle a little bit about being caught up in the sense of I, me, and mine in the material world does apply to all of us.
I have a story. I'm not going to name any names, but this is a really nice devotee in my life who had a friend. And I might be getting the story sort of wrong, but the point is the point holds true. Her friend was not a devotee. She was a devotee, but her friend was not a devotee. And she was a good friend, and she was dying of cancer. She had cancer, and she had these heavy, heavy pain medication. And this girl was straight edge. She didn't drink or smoke, but her friend wasn't really, who was dying. And all of her friends, like boyfriend, etc., were stealing her pain medication, and they were addicted to her pain relievers. And they were like using her in just like a degrading way. And finally, this friend of ours, this nice devotee, she finally had a breakdown. She said, listen, these people don't love you. They don't care about you. You are dying. You might not believe in what I believe in, but you believe in me. And I'm going to ask you, I'm going to be here for you till the moment you leave your body. Come with me. I'll take you away from all of these people, give up everything, and I'm going to help you leave your body in Vrindavan. And she took this person to Vrindavan, and this person had a complete transformation in Vrindavan. She ended up getting initiated in Vrindavan on her deathbed. It was an
Wow.
amazing story, but it was one of those interventions where, things are good. This guy likes me. He uses a little bit of my drugs. And you see a time now that was a pretty intense story, but a lot of times in the Bhagavatam you hear stories like Maharaj Bharat, who's ready to leave his body. He's given up everything, and then he finds this little deer, and the deer he takes care of, he pets, and we're almost warm-hearted. It's like a warm-hearted Disney story. The deer's mother gets killed, but now he's going to take the deer. It's like Bambi. And like he's walking around and he's petting the deer and he's trying to do his meditation, but the deer is snuggling with him. And then all of a sudden he dies untimely, meditating on the deer. And you sort of think like, well, it's good to take care of deers. What's so bad about deers? Nothing is bad about taking care of a deer, but sometimes we sacrifice great for good. It's good to take care of deers. But you're about to leave your body and you're about to take birth again. And this is where the Bhagavatam comes in. It's sort of like slamming down the mallet. It's the intervention. Hey, wake up. Wake up.
Yeah, the story coming to my mind also, that's a great reference you just made, but also the story that's coming to my mind was Vidur and Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra, again, in the Bhagavatam, when Dhritarashtra is getting to the end of his life, it's post-battle of Kurukshetra, and Vidur just comes in and just has this sort of intervention with Dhritarashtra and just says, what are you doing, right? You're at the fag end of your life, and you are just holding on to the scraps.
I love that
of
expression.
Fag end of life, yeah.
No one has ever said that except the Bhagavatam. The fag end of your life. I've never heard anybody say that. Maybe it's British. British people on the show. Is that a British thing?
I see some nods.
I say it all the time. I just said it this morning.
We're working with Vanya. They're all a UK-based team, and I'm learning all of these
Slang.
British phrases. Yeah.
Just put it in the boot.
But you're holding on to the scraps of some idea of your material life that's just, it never was true, and it's no longer true now either. And now's the time to get serious about your spiritual life. Like, take this opportunity. Dhritarashtra, it finally pierced his heart, and he heard it. And then he went back and he absorbed himself into spiritual practice and left this world onto the spiritual world.
That's a great verse in the Bhagavatam when Vidura comes back from pilgrimage. The war is over. Dhritarashtra is living with Yudhisthira, who he is trying to kill. He was trying to kill Yudhisthira, and Yudhisthira is such a gentleman. He said, well, this guy's my uncle. I know he was trying to kill me and all my brothers and my family, but you know what? He's an elder. I got to take care of him. So he's living, Vidura put it like, you're living like a household dog.
Yeah.
He's like, and then he goes through his body. Your skin's wrinkled. Your teeth are falling out. Your eyes are, your hair's thinning. He's just going over his like appearance, which was in one sense was a little bit funny. And then Dhritarashtra, because he was, trained, he took it seriously and said, you know what? I'm leaving. So we hear these things when we're in good health. We hear these things when we're physically fit. But it's good to hear these things on a regular basis because it helps us cut. I tell the story of Hari Bhajan in my book. And if you haven't heard this story, he was like a sadhu and I'll tell it really short, but he was a sadhu that used to feed me in Vrindavan when I was a young man. And every day he would feed me, and I never knew he spoke English. We always like talked in charades, and you're like would you like prashad? But he'd move his hands around, and I would go yes. And then one day I said, I wish you spoke English, and he goes, oh, I do speak English. And then we had this whole this was after a month of getting fed by this sadhu. And I said, how did you get here? Like, were you born in Vrindavan? He looked like just like some hermit living in a clay hut. And he said, no, I came here with my family when I was 35 in the 50s. And, Indians go on vacation with their families in their 50s. Americans, like after 14, I stopped going on vacation with my parents. But they're on vacation to a holy place, and they were ready to leave. And he said to his father, I can't leave here. He said, well, what do you mean you can't leave? Yes, it's a very beautiful place, Vrindavan. He goes, no, really, I cannot leave. He says, I know Vrindavan is very nice, but we have to get our train. He says, Father, I will not leave here. I will never leave Vrindavan. And the father said, what are you talking about? He wasn't married, but he said, you have a job, you have a career, you have your own business. And he just said, keep my business, keep my wealth. I'm staying here. He said, how will you live? He said, I'll figure it out. And he never left. And so sometimes we get that spiritual impetus, and maybe Hari Bhajan got it from a young age, or maybe it was just the right combination of factors in your life. And you go, you know what? It's over. Material life is over. And sometimes we get to that point, and sometimes maybe everybody on the show has got to that point, but we're not like completely determined in that point. So therefore we like waver a little bit. Just yesterday, someone said, you know what? I apologize for being so up and down with my life. Guess what? That's just part of having a material body. We go up and we go down. We get inspired, and then we get whatever. I'm too fanatical, and we go up, and then I'm gonna go dip into some bad habits, and then those bad habits we get disgusted with ourselves, and then we go in deeper again. Oh, no, I gotta get serious about this, and so we're more on a roller coaster than a straight line. That's why I like you, Mara. You're very straight, and you Kostuba too. You and Kostuba, you guys are like parallel lines moving into the light. I'm more of like a rocky road. I'm like a dirt road. I'm a dirt road in the Himalayas with sinkholes and potholes and crumbling cliffs and landslides. That's been more my life. And I'm okay with that as long as it's going up eventually. That's what I'm hoping.
I don't know, Prabhu. You've done 1,273 episodes of Bhagavatam steadily throughout the landslides and sinkholes.
This is a big portion. We're going to talk about this today. That's a good reminder, because it's our daily activities that start to change us. Our daily activities start to change us. And that's why this concept of sadhana is so important. Showing up for the same old thing that doesn't get old on a regular basis. That doesn't mean it doesn't get stale. It feels stale. Like, I don't feel like doing it today. People do this with physical fitness. I don't feel like running today. I don't feel like going to the gym today. I don't feel like doing yoga today. But you show up, and afterwards you're like, did it, been there, you know? And if you're hitting that feeling like you're hitting a ceiling, keep pushing. And then the taste becomes sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. And that's Krishna seeing your sincerity and trying to lure you right out of the material world.
Yeah. One other thing I'd add is as we start to read these verses, and we can get into it right after this, is a lot of these verses in the Bhagavatam, the stories that you hear make sense when there's a sense of urgency in our lives. The Bhagavatam begins with the urgency of Maharaj Parikshit, who only had 7 days to live. Vidura was impressing upon Dhritarashtra the urgencies, like you're at the fag end of life, which Aaron in the chat said it's the expression of the end of a cigarette butt.
Oh, fag. That's what a fag is with the cigarette.
With the cigarette.
Cigarette butt.
Yeah, the fag end. So that's where that comes from, FYI.
That's what all the kids called me in school. It must have something with cigarettes. Okay.
They're calling you cigarettes. So here also, and the verses leading up to this that we read yesterday was all about how there's so little time in life. You spend so much time sleeping. You spend so much time at work. You spend so much time doing this and that. You actually have a very, very short amount of time available to dedicate to something important. So there's this, when you think life is good, when you think you got lots of time, when there's like, yeah, there's this and that, don't get so fanatical, blah, blah, blah. It's just it seems over the top. But when you come back to a sense of urgency, like I've got a very short period of time, I've got a lot to do. This is really important. I have a very valuable opportunity being in the human form of life to elevate myself out of the material world. That sense of urgency allows you to receive these verses in a different way. So wanted to set that up.
We're in a good place.
Great place.
And we're in a good place in the history of Krishna consciousness too, I think. It's a very good, exciting place. Remind me to tell you about a show that me and Mara watched. But I'm not going to tell now because we haven't read one verse yet.
Was it murder or grotesque comedy?
No, it was neither.
Great.
It was neither, but it had a parallel to the Hare Krishna thing. And I'll share in a moment.
All right, let's read some verses and then I'll remind you about that.
Okay. How can a person who is most affectionate to his family, like I said, this is like a heavy intervention here. So don't expect it to be like polished.
Yeah,
It's going to
we
be
spent-
right cutting.
We spent a
How
half
can
an hour trying to prep and just like, maybe we can get through the whole episode without reading any verses.
Just wait till Kostuma.
Wait till
can get back
Kostuma
and
gets
explain
wait
it.
till Kostuma gets back in. Here, you read
I
these.
think he specifically arranged his travel dates just so I'd have to deal with these.
We're just going to talk about sinkholes and earthquakes in Italy, and then once Kostuma gets back, he can read them.
I'm just shocked that you actually prepared, Raghunath. Like you got together with Doyle before the show and actually prepared something.
Who said I did that?
I thought you just said you just said something like that.
When I got on early before the show, Raghunath was
Yeah.
there, and he's like, "I'm preparing for the class."
See that?
He
Yeah,
did. So he's
that's
taking it
A new
seriously.
thing.
Sometimes
He's a straight line.
I'm a straight line. When you're gone, I'm
Yeah.
the straight guy. He's the nutcase.
All right. All right. Good luck.
You got to act a little more
Good
nutty.
luck. Good luck.
How can a person, listen, who's most affectionate to his family, the core of his heart being always filled with their pictures, give up their association? That's interesting. Did they even have pictures back then? What does that mean? I wonder.
Maybe
bring
there was
us-
mental pictures.
That people could draw, paint.
people could draw. There's a painting of my family. Okay.
Yeah.
Specifically a wife, right? For the husband, he's always thinking of his wife, especially if you got, especially, in the times where people really were sweet with each other. Specifically a wife who's always kind and sympathetic and always pleases her husband in solitary places. That means sexually. That's the innuendo. Who could give up the association of such dear and affectionate wife? I'll say spouse. Small children talk in broken language. Very pleasing to hear. Just yesterday, was I telling you this, Dayal? My son, when he was little, we used to sleep with him in bed. He used to wake up and go, "Pooja, Daddy, Pooja,
Aw.
Pooja," like waking me up to say Pooja. I was like, "You adorable little kid." And instead of being attracted to Krishna, I was just attracted to him. You are my object of worship, adorable child. Small children talk in broken language, very pleasing to hear, and their affectionate father always thinks of their sweet words. Even now, I'm recollecting this story. How could he give up that association? One's elderly parents and one's sons and daughters are also very dear. I'm always talking about Grandma Terry. A daughter is especially dear to her father. That's true, right, Sachi? Yep, my daughter. Forget those sons. My daughter, is especially dear to her father. And while giving at her and while living at her husband's house, right? When Sachi gets old and moves away and moves in with her new husband, it's always in the father's mind. How is she doing? Is she okay? Is he taking care of her? I'm always telling her, if anybody mistreats you, you let me know. They have to be, a boyfriend has to have the fear of the father instilled within them. That's my fatherly advice for fathers of girls. They need to know that there's accountability for their actions. Who could give up that association? Aside from this, in household affairs, there are many decorated items of household furniture, right? There is, like furniture you love in your house, like we've got Mara's grandmother's rocking chair. And there are also animals, right? We got our Gus. Who could give up such comforts? The attached householder is like a silkworm. This is a great analogy. A silkworm which weaves a cocoon in which it becomes imprisoned, unable to get out. Simply for the satisfaction of these two important senses, the genitals and the tongue, one is bound by material conditions. How can one escape? What do you think of that?
I think that it's explaining to us how easy it is to get wound up in the material world. It's almost like, what is that word, sadistic, where it's like you don't notice how it's happening to you over time. Insidious. Yeah, sadistic is more like evil. Insidious, that's the word I was looking for. Insidious,
Creeps
where
in.
there's that sense of like, yeah, you don't sort of realize the way that you're kind of, and all of a sudden you're really, really bound up. And it's just saying it's really hard in the light of all of that to focus on something beyond that. It's easy to get caught up.
the things that we're attached to the most: home, wealth, family. None of those are evil per se at all. A matter of fact, when you look at like a spiritual family, like I was thinking this morning because I'm doing a program in San Francisco with Jonaby. I was thinking of, and then I was reading this verse earlier. I was thinking about Jonaby's family. I was thinking, not her family. Like she's got a spiritual family. Her father's an initiating guru. The mother's like a guru. Her sister is like a great kirtan leader. It's like, it's not saying abandon family, but you got to be careful with family members because they can very easily latch on. And so we also have to see people in this world who are lifting us up. Matter of fact, you know, in my older age too, I have so many young people in my life that I consider almost like my sons and daughters, like Maya. I consider Maya like a daughter of mine, or, Alex from Sweden, or, Tommy Fawcett. They're like my sons. They're like other sons because they're on this like spiritual trajectory, their spiritual path. And that current is taking us all somewhere. And so there is material family can be insidious, like a current of an ocean. Like ever go swimming in the ocean, like in the summer at Jones Beach or at the Jersey Shore, and you're waving to your mom, you're like 7 years old. And then you're like swimming around and all of a sudden you're like, where the hell is mom? And then you realize the current has dragged you 100 yards. You don't even notice. Yeah, not even a riptide, but yes, a riptide too. But when the current sort of just drags you, you're still in the low water, but the current has pulled you down the beach. So that we have to check in on a regular basis. And that's why, again, sadhana, or showing up for a regular spiritual practice, going away for a weekend. That's why we do Super Soul Farm. We do it so you can go away for a weekend and have a spiritual immersion. Just like we have our sadhana in the morning, it is like a pilgrimage of our day. And when you have your sadhana in the morning, a pilgrimage of your day, then after you get a good taste for it, then you have a pilgrimage at night. You read a little at night. You sing a little at night. Then you'll say, I want to go away for a weekend. Then you want to go away for a longer pilgrimage. You want to, travel somewhere, go to India, go to a holy place, go to Italy, whatever. These are not shameless sales techniques. But they are as well. But they are as well. Because it's important to get away where you don't have to worry about the minutia of material existence, and you can just really focus on hearing and chanting and connecting with God and a community.
Yeah. That was the story of Cat Stevens. You know the story of Cat Stevens and the Riptide?
I know Cat Stevens became a Muslim.
Do you know why?
What else do you know?
Do you know why he became a Muslim?
Because he was famous and he got overwhelmed with fame, flattery, and fake validation.
He partially.
That's my guess.
He was like a rising star at the height of his career. He was young and good looking and super famous, had big hits in the 70s or whenever it was. And he was in the ocean and he got caught in a riptide. Or he got swept out into the ocean, and he was
never heard this story.
He was way out there. He was way out there, and he just resigned himself to die. He resigned himself. It's like, I'm gonna, and it was one of those contrasts. Like, wow, I have so much fame, I have so much money, I've got so much. He was probably indulging in every type of sense gratification Bhagavatam describes that we can think of.
Yeah, I don't think he was straight edge.
It wasn't straight. It wasn't a straight edge, and he realized, you know what? I am helpless in this expanse of the ocean, and nobody can see me or hear me. I'm going to die. And so he resigned himself to die, and then he made a prayer to God. He's just like, and I don't know what his religious or spiritual background was then, if any, but he just
when you're drowning, everyone's religious.
Yeah, what's that for? There are no atheists in the foxhole. There's that phrase.
Yes.
So he just said, God, if you get me out of here, I promise I will give my entire life to you. I'll just give my entire life to you. Like, just get me out of this situation. I'll give everything up and I'll just completely surrender to you. And
I wonder if he dabbled in Vaishnavism.
I don't know, but he made that prayer. And after he made that prayer, somehow the current shifted and he got swept up back to the shore. And he's like, I'm going to keep my promise. And he ended his career and he became a Muslim. I don't know why he chose Islam or if there was a connection or not, but that's why
Wouldn't
he
it be
became a
great if he was a Hare Krishna? I would have loved Cat Stevens as a Hare Krishna. I loved Cat Stevens.
Yeah.
But whatever.
So, but that was the story. That was the story for the Riptide. I was also thinking of Ravinder Sripu, who quotes this verse from Shakespeare in Romeo and Juliet, where I think it's either Juliet or Romeo. One of them refers to the other as "You're the god of my idolatry." You're talking about like you're my object of worship now. He says,
Right.
"You're the god of my idolatry," where it becomes like you start to replace God in my life. And I think the real switcheroo is when we think that we're playing God in other people's life, right? I'm
Right.
your source of protection. I'm your source of love. We talked about that yesterday, like ownership. And we're actually robbing other people of their spiritual life because we're inserting ourselves as God in their life without recognizing that actually I'm meant to help you turn towards God and find God in your life and vice versa. So,
I like that. I
yeah.
like that a lot. Yeah, we never want to make someone else our God. Let God be your God. Write that down, miss. Let God be your God. The silkworm creates a cocoon, and he can't get out. He created it. He created his own demise. They do get out though, don't they? Become butterflies.
Is that
Okay, but I guess they don't get out. So that's a good one.
This is a good one.
I'll extend on that analogy. If you're in a spiritual household where your friends and family and partners and kids and your household dogs and your furniture are all bringing you higher, then you are like a caterpillar who's transforming, metamorphosizing into a butterfly, and you're not dying. I guess you'll die. What will die is your old shell, right? Your old carcass.
Silkworm is different than a caterpillar, right?
Well, no, they're caterpillars.
The caterpillars.
Mara's on it.
Mara's on it. Anyway, we get the analogy.
You
we
get
the
the
point.
analogy. The idea is you're building something. Because Stuba uses that analogy of what? A bee and a beehive, a wasp, something. Because Stuba, are you there?
It looks like a silkworm turns into a domestic silk moth.
Oh, a silk moth. They're not that pretty.
So
either.
okay, moths
No.
are.
Stuba, what's that analogy you
Moths
use?
aren't so great.
Stuba, you say
I think-
something like a bee. Stuba's like, I'm the Van Wyck.
That was a whole different thing. That had to do with meditation, how you become what you meditate on. So the bee, one little creature gets trapped in a hole and the wasp is coming in.
No, it was something
That was a
different.
different
It was
thing.
something different. That was a good one too. Something different. Okay.
All right. Should we keep discussing this first or the next one?
No, let's go to the next one.
Okay, 14.
Okay. If a person too attached to the duties of family maintenance.
Wait, you skipped over 14.
Oops, sorry. One who is too attached cannot understand that he is wasting, here we go, his valuable life for the maintenance of his family. He also fails to understand that the purpose of human life is a life suitable for realization of the absolute truth is being imperceptibly spoiled. However, he's very cleverly attentive to seeing that not a single farthing is lost by mismanagement. Thus, although an attached person in material existence always suffers from the threefold miseries, he does not develop a distaste for the way of material existence. This reminds me, and all you have to do is study the history sometimes of kings and royalty. And oftentimes when you're dealing with vast amounts of wealth, people do atrocious things to inherit that wealth. Sometimes a person makes a lot of money in their lifetime and they think, I'm going to be very gracious. I'm going to distribute wealth to my children. And then the person dies and the children are fighting over it, or they won't speak to one another over it. You think you're actually doing such a great, noble, charitable thing. But because those people aren't even qualified to deal with the energy of wealth, which is an energy, it's just like me. It's like me after a lightning storm and all the wires are hanging down, and Mara says, "Hey, we got a blackout in the house. Go fix those electric Go climb that telephone pole and try to fix the electric. I'm not qualified. I'll fry. I'm not a qualified electrician. Doyle, just want you to know that. Not even part-time electrician.
No
So,
electrician.
Yeah. How was I talking about that?
The
I'm
energy.
not sure.
So the energy of wealth. So a person who's focused on wealth and focused on their business and and then they distribute that wealth above and beyond. People don't know how to handle it. And it could empower them. It could empower them if they know how to handle wealth. Or it could burn them and ruin the very thing you want to give your kid could ruin their life. Does anybody have an experience of that listening on Zoom? Yeah.
I was looking up some can I read some I was looking up because there was a couple things I was looking at this in this verse because it's interesting. So we're hearing things of wasting life for the maintenance of family, being so attentive to see that not a single farthing is lost by mismanagement, right? Reading these like very heavy statements. But then you look at the life of Prabhupada, and it's interesting to see how it's not caring for children or being attentive to how money's being spent is evil. It's when it's layered with a misconceived material consciousness. Because Prabhupada was also extraordinarily careful with money. When you actually read, there's actually a really great book you can get. I don't even know if it's in published anymore. I think I have a copy of it. It's like a coffee table kind of book.
Right.
And it's like the very early days of Prabhupada in New York. And it's got like journal entries that he would write that weren't meant to be published anywhere, just for himself. And he would document every penny that he spent.
Yeah, every rupee, every pice. He would write down. It's unbelievable.
I spent 5 cents on lettuce. And we actually went with Kastuba and Radnath Swami to the West End Superette on 72nd Street. What street was it, Kastuba, where he would go? And it's still there today, where he would go and buy vegetables.
72nd and West End.
72nd and West End. And he would document every single penny that he spent. And there was some other, so that was one thing. And there was some other quotes. Can I read some really
What you got?
So these are quotes and letters from Srila Prabhupada about children.
We're so prepared, aren't we?
This is a letter that Srila Prabhupada. This is a letter that Srila Prabhupada wrote to Arundhati. Arundhati Das. It says Das. I thought that was Dasi. Anyways, either one. Maybe Arundhati Das.
He lives up here.
Prabhupada said, this is a quote from Prabhupada in a letter, July 30th.
We were just with Arundhati in Govardhan Eco Village.
July 30th, 1972. Child worship is more important than deity worship.
What?
If you cannot spend time with him, meaning the child, then stop the duties of pujari. At least you take good care of your son until he is older. And if after that you're unable to take care of them, then he was talking about being in a community of devotees. But he was saying, if you can't spend time with your kids, then stop the duties of pujari. It wasn't like you must do your service, and if your kids are getting in the way, then just don't have kids or get out of the way.
Sure.
He said, these children are given to us by Krishna. They are Vaishnavas, and we must be very careful to protect them. There was another quote that he mentioned. Our children are the gift given by the mercy of the Lord. They are delicate. Take care of them with love and devotion. And then he said, by giving them Krishna consciousness. So, there's other letters, we can look them up, etc. But I was just seeing how on one hand, you're seeing this whole heavy down criticism of material life and family, etc. Then in the same stroke, Prabhupada would give letters about how important it is to take care of your family in a spiritual context, right?
Sure.
And so it takes a lot of maturity sometimes when you're reading Prabhupada's books and statements to not just laser focus on one statement, one word, one line. Say, Prabhupada was very holistic. And to really understand what Prabhupada was saying in one context, you have to understand the gamut of Prabhupada's teachings, his writings, the way he lived, the way he treated people in person and interacted. So I thought those quotes and references were pretty cool.
Culture now is expert at picking out one sentence out of something you said some time ago and holding that sentence as, this is what you're all about. This is what's going to read on your gravestone. And it's just not appropriate. You don't get the picture of the person from one sentence out of context. And it's not just Prabhupada, it's the teachings of bhakti, because this sounds in one sense very cold, but like you said, the energy of money, if you're looking at it as this is mine and this gives me, this is where I find my worth, it's a material thing and will complicate your life. And the energy of family and love, if they think this is about me, it will complicate my life. But speaking of family, yes, bye. I love you. My daughter's saying goodbye. That was sweet.
Mm.
Oh. Okay. All right, let's go on. What number are we on there?
Next verse, 15. 15.
Silk moth. If a person too attached to the duties of family maintenance is unable to control his senses. Oh, I get it. We're leaving and she's saying goodbye because we're not going to see her. I love you. Okay. If a person is too attached to the duties of family maintenance and is unable to control his senses, the core of his heart is immersed in how to accumulate money. You know, I had a friend told me about another friend of his who was a devotee. It was a devotee who was good at business, and he said he somehow got swept away in the Ganga. Did I ever tell you the story? Swept away in the Ganga, and instead of like you're gonna die in the Ganga, he said he said instead of thinking of Krishna, I was calculating every like my bank balance to the dime. That's what he was thinking of. It's in these extreme situations. What is our mind meditating on? And so he said that in a very vulnerable way. I'm sorry. If a person too attached to the duties of family maintenance is unable to control his senses, the core of his heart is immersed in how to accumulate money. Although he knows that one who takes the wealth of others will be punished by the law of the government and by the laws of Yamaraj after death, he continues cheating others to acquire money. You know, another famous story, I was going to talk about that, the wealth of kings, is, you know, the story of these Mughal the Mughal emperors. And the most notorious was this Aurangzeb. He was famous for, you know, literally creating, you know, deicide, just murdering Brahmins and destroying temples, thousands of temples destroyed, or hundreds of temples destroyed, including Govindaji in Vrindavan and Madha Mohan. And but anyway, and he came to power when he was 14 years old, in killing his father or in imprisoning his father. He wasn't the eldest son, so he felt like if you're not the oldest son, you're not going to get anything in these royal bloodlines. So he decided to create a coup and murder his brothers to take his father's wealth. This isn't the first time these stories have been done. What people do for money is really quite scary, and and people will kill for it.
He was where in the line of the Taj Mahal king, or was he
no, his father built the Taj Mahal.
So
they say. I still believe it was a Shiva temple, but that's the narrative they're giving now. I got a feeling that narrative is going to change because now they're discovering all these things about ancient Mughal architecture, that a lot of it was just resurfaced ancient Hindu.
Okay, anyway, Aurangzeb killed his
was the
father
son
and his
of the
brothers.
Father, who was the
son of the father. Okay,
Yeah.
killed his brothers.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. Let's go back to the. We're
was that the point? The stories of what people do for money.
Yeah, the what people will do for money, and of course, the father was probably thinking he's doing very noble things, and he's got this very wealthy family, and all my kids, even they'll all live like royalty. But you can be possessed by this energy. So devotees, we become like expert electricians, knowing how to use the energy to light up an entire city. And if you find great souls, they can light up millions of lives. And if you're handling fame or beauty or wealth or strength or intelligence, but you don't know how to handle that energy, you can burn the place down. How many great minds are going to take things like AI and ruin the world with it? Take things like, you know, technology and ruin the world with it. They're brilliant people, but they can't handle the energy. And so they use that to build bombs. It wasn't like fools built the atom bomb. Like great, geniuses built these things.
Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, they were all great yogis.
Great, yeah. They weren't dum-dums. All right, Mara, it's time for our takeaways. That was a pretty good show. Kostuba, do we have your thumbs up of approval? Is he still here or is he out of the cab now?
Yeah, he's
Oh, he's
giving you a
giving us
thumbs
thumbs
up.
We got a
Yeah.
thumb.
He still hasn't figured out how to use the thumbs up emoji, but thank you, Kostuba. Means a lot.
All right. It's what we put in our consciousness and our downtime that shapes who we are.
It's what that, that's important. It's what
That was a good one that you put in the very beginning.
in the very beginning.
Yeah.
That was a pitch for
It's a-
Arvani. Go to School.
Every one of these takeaways has a pitch associated
Yeah,
to them.
exactly. Sign up for our retreat at
It's
Wisdom of the
all
Sages.
upcycled. Come up to my coaching course.
Sacred literature is ever fresh and always relevant.
Raghunath.yoga/coaching
/ ebook.
/ vending machines.
Sometimes goodness can cheat you out of greatness.
Yes. Those goodness can cheat you.
We've upsold everything that we have already.
We've
Bhagavatam is one big intervention for the material world.
I like that one.
Yeah.
I like that.
I said
I like-
that one.
I like it too. I'm going to steal it. I'm going to use it. And you know what's
Use it.
great about it? You can steal stuff in Bhakti. You can steal it and use it.
Because
and you
none
don't
of
even
it's
have to give
ours.
credit, and you don't have to even give props. You could just say, I just heard this somewhere. I didn't hear it from
It is
Dharma.
said.
It is said.
The
Yeah, you could
Bhagavatam
say,
is
"It
an
is said."
intervention book for the material
Great
world.
souls have said.
They say.
Vedic teachers say. And it's okay. It's called parampara. In the material world, they call that copyright infringement.
Or plagiarizing.
Plagiarism.
Add a sense of urgency to your spiritual life.
Yes.
Yes, that's what we're here to do.
Mhm.
If you're
Urgency.
too calm in your life, that's that great quote I always quote. The devotees, they give peace to those who are suffering. And they give some suffering to those who are too peaceful. Right?
Where'd you get that
they
from? Is
remind
that
them of-
yours?
It's not mine, but great thinkers have said it.
I like that one.
It's a little bit like when it's good, it's bad, and when it's bad, it's
When it's
good.
good,
It's bad as good.
When it's bad, oh, that's good.
Yeah. I always heard the one that materialistic people can't fall asleep, but devotees can't stay awake.
Well, that's not good.
No, not that one. No, that was when we learned living in the ashram when people were getting like 4 hours of sleep a day or 5 hours sleep and struggling to stay awake here and there.
Oh, you forgot to ask me the question about the TV show.
TV show, forgot.
Too late.
Ah,
Save it for tomorrow.
Save it for tomorrow. Okay.
Our morning sadhana is like a daily pilgrimage.
Our morning sadhana it's like a
that's
pilgrimage.
nice. That's a really
Yeah.
nice meditation to think I'm going on pilgrimage every morning.
Oh my God. Jim Wood's on the message board. Yasu's on the message board. It's out of control today.
Let God be your God.
Let God be your God. Oh, I'm about to announce the winner of the Tulsi beads.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
A spiritual household transforms caterpillars into butterflies.
Nice.
Spiritual household transforms. Yes.
Where does our mind go in extreme situations?
Where does our mind go with extremes?
Where did that
Extreme
takeaway come from?
situations?
Like when we're drowning.
Where's our mind go in extreme
Oh,
situations?
right. Okay.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
if we're getting drowning in the Ganga.
Yep, that's a good
Where
one.
did our mind
And
go?
before we say and, the winner of the Silver Tulsi Malas, please go to Silver Tulsi Mala, follow them on Instagram, and check out their website because we like these guys and they support us and they support our community. Manish Dixit is the winner. Manish Dixit, the answer of chapter 9 is attaining most confidential knowledge.
Confidential knowledge.
Most confidential knowledge. Thank you. Good job, Manish.
All right. Send me your address and I'll send you some japamalas.
Okay, and the final takeaway is
And
And
Raghu is not an electrician, even part-time.
no. But it doesn't mean I can't be. I'm not going to limit myself. I could become an electrician. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thanks to Doyle Garunga. It's been a fun 2 days.
thank you guys. Appreciate it.
And we're on tomorrow at 7
Keep
a.m.
us back.
Live
Welcome
from
back,
Linda
Kastuba.
Linda's house.
New York's not the same without you.
We're gonna be live in Florida at Linda's house with the Youth of Today guys there.
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
You're going to Florida today?
I'm going to Florida in
2 hours. Wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
In a few hours. We're gonna be in Tampa, then we're gonna be in Miami. Looking forward to it.
Sweet.
And then I'm going back to Florida the following week, or in 2 weeks from then. What do you think about that?
You're going to Florida, leaving Florida, and going back to Florida?
You know, you can't get enough of Florida.